Hi guys, it's nice. Well, I wanted to say nice to see you, but this is the first experience for me too. I see one in front of me the presentation topic I'm going to talk to. So nice to have you online and wired to what we're talking about. Well, maybe the first remark before we dive into topic. This is a kind of big topic, crypto assets valuations, an experimental one, as you will see from the further talk. I think we should take a kind of time for us and don't expect like fast, immediate results. Yeah, well, crypto here to stay. Like, I don't know, for those who are involved in the crypto space, they know there are so much innovation or improvements and possibilities to do things better using blockchain and in a way of cryptocurrencies. So it's not possible to, and we see like a lot of traction all over the world. So crypto here to stay, and we what we are doing now, we're trying to understand what's going on, how valuation can be made, what crypto is about, how the things are connected inside crypto world, outside. Yeah, so and this is a kind of most of them new topics, so no needs to be in a hurry and rush. Let's go through some of the important topics, and then maybe by answering the questions we will find out what is also interesting, and we can keep talking and discussing it. Crypto moves fast, but it's better to be quiet and understand as much as possible what's going on in order not to make wrong decisions. So in order to kick it off, I will maybe share a few words about what sentiment is about. And we started 2 years ago, first writing some blogs, and market analysis at that time was quite limited to major like Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe sometimes Monero. Community started to grow, and interest was rapidly growing. So yeah, we collected some smaller community, become bigger and bigger. Did ICO last year, collected 45,000 Ethereum, and used already at that time we were experimenting and trying to do innovative things like whitelisting and rewarding those part of community who really was close to us and participating. And ever since then, we've been working on one thing, well, many things, but one is like kind of key. We try to find out what is a holistic view of the crypto market, like combine data and insights from different areas, and trying to understand what is behind of this movement. We do understand it sometimes on a psychological level, philosophical, social, economical. What is about valuation? Is there a way to build some kind of holistic valuation model? We're still not far from finished, but as we keep trying and applying some new methods, yeah, it's keep improving. And by doing this, we like combined effort. We deploy a lot of machines and techniques, but we also involve a lot of human resources or human insights and understanding. Because in the crypto, it's everything about building the network, not only machine, but incentivize the community around and to see how we can, as a community, a social entity, achieve something. So this is about sentiment, our vision, and where we're going to. And just a visual representation how we're working, that we have different kinds of data, we store it, and then we invite external developers to work on it and researchers, and it can be used for trading using our AIs. And so just a general overview. Crypto markets, they are sometimes they are compared to dot-com bubble, but we believe it's not, and we will show a few examples why it's not. It's new. It's like really a new trend or entity in the world of technology and financial and social. And as everything new, it behaves quite irrational because we are discovering on our way. When cryptocurrency universes get created, we still keep discovering how things are connected, what drives development. And this movement is quite irrational, and we will see a few charts and compare it to what we believe to be more or less a rational movement of financial area. And by analyzing the crypto markets, we believe it's quite hard to apply rules or formulas which we have used before for classic finances. They typically don't give you any results, or very short term, and then like everything like changes, and you need to throw out your model right away. By just observing the cryptocurrency price over the last, let's say, 2 years, well, it's quite clear that it can go in any direction, especially way up to very like irrational level and then just crash down, and also to quite unexpected levels. And still predicting it's complicated, and maybe it's not the real ultimate goal to predict the ultimate top and bottom. Understanding what drives it. This is a very important, interesting task. And this is where we would like to focus on in our talks and analysis. Now, on this chart, we share on this chart we share. I was just double checking that everything is shown correctly. What illustration for rationality of crypto market? You see on the top line, there is on the top part of the chart, there is a price of S&P 500. How the price discovery there is going on. It's quite, I would say, if you compare it to what is below, it's very rational. It's almost straight line. Now below it is just for 2 years. Is a price discovery for Ethereum, and the second biggest crypto asset. And as you can see, it started from somewhere low. And well, I still remember when it was 6, because it was 6 or 8. This is where I entered the cryptocurrency space. And then, like last year, 1,500, almost 1,400. It's very rapid move, and then quite fast drop down to 400. There is a life inside it. There is a lot of irrationality movement, and you can guess a lot of emotions involved. And not to be confused just with S&P, because it's very generic. If we compare it to the 3 most, well, one of the most innovative companies in technology, Tesla, Netflix, PayPal, yeah, here you see there is a little bit more life, more movement. Still compared to cryptocurrency, yeah, there is a quite clear difference, rationality and irrationality. Yeah, when Tesla, Netflix, PayPal is moving, you can guess markets know more or less how to evaluate them. Now, when the crypto is moving, the market has no idea. Will it be tomorrow? In the case of Ethereum, 1 year ago, will it be tomorrow? When we start at 10, will be 15, or will be 5, will be 20? No one really knows. And as we find out, and actually this is where I started when I entered the crypto with my psychological background, the very fact that anyone in the crypto space has direct impact or direct connection to crypto market, everyone can participate. There is no limitation. Yeah, there is no regulation. Everything goes. You can say anything, or you can try to move, or let's say to announce any things. And if you can engage other people, they will support you. And emotions are shared very fast. And the basic emotions of participants who are there like only for money, like they're driven by greed, because it's very fast moving market, and you can experience 10, 20, sometimes 50% a day. So when it's go up, you can easily get greedy. And also constant fears, and it will disappear, especially when market starts crashing. And these emotions are very strong, and as a human mind, you cannot really control it. You are like driven. And once you are driven by emotions, and we know it like from our private lives or from normal lives, irrationality kicks in. Very often we cannot explain after some time, oh, why we did it. Well, we were driven by emotion, irrational. Now in a crypto once you get exposed to it, you will see that people can easily get into communities. They discuss on Reddit, on Telegram, on Discord, so a lot of channels. And once you get a community or crowd, irrationality kicks in even more, because emotionally you share some emotional field, and you can increase the power of your emotions. So it's a very, very strong aspect. And one of the main reasons why in our analysis we pay in the first place attention to this behavior aspect, how humans behave. How can we measure their behavior? Is it reaching extreme greed, or is it now go direction fear? Is it changing from one to another? Can we measure here cautious or worries? It most of the time reflects relatively precisely what's happening in the background in the whole cryptocurrency or in specific asset. And this dog is very famous in cryptocurrency, symbol for Dogecoin. And also the language, how we use it, much exciting. Analyzing these wild moves and sudden changing topics and crowd emotions, it's very, very exciting. And when you do it for traditional markets, you basically know most of things. When like revenue, business model, taxation, regulations, more or less clear. Now the crypto, actually almost none of this is clear. Anything can change. Regulations, taxation, well, especially taxation is like changing quite often, unpredictable way, or regulations. And business models, some of them are known, like we know more or less what is going on with Bitcoin network. Yeah. But all these ICOs, they announce one thing and then they change to another thing, and then something else happens. Like you need to account for so many factors that valuing properly is very complicated. And at the end of the day, you want to measure one thing: is this decentralized network or networks, how is it growing? Are they expanding, or now they stop developing? Are they still in a combination with other networks? Can they collaborate together, or they fight against each other? All these factors you need to calculate, and it's quite new and specific for crypto essence. Yeah, because of course, we do know that businesses, they fight or collaborate with each other in a normal economy, but here it's everything about networks, and there are a lot of data which give you part of this data or part of the coverage what's going on with the network. But you don't have a framework yet how to work with them. And for now, we find out like major areas of data which helps you, or which can give you a hint on what's happening with specific network, or if you combine these metrics for the whole cryptocurrency space. And there's the following. Like one biggest piece of data, it's on-chain data itself. It shows a lot. How much activity, how many new addresses, how many transactions, in which direction do they interact with each other. So-called whales, beholders, accumulating or distributing. There's a lot of traffic to exchange from exchanges. You can take all this from on-chain data. And then the second part is a social related data. What people talk about which project and in what way, and especially if you compare to the past, how the mood has changed. And you take it from Reddit, Twitter, Telegram, or even YouTube. And there is some specific fundamental relation for different networks. Are they really growing or not? And there is a classic piece of data from exchanges. You have a price and you have a volume, and you can track like order book, what's coming in, coming out. And yeah, this four main pieces of data you need to take into account when you value every specific asset, or like crypto market in general, or you combine some assets into verticals. Now, because yes, this is short picture describing our platform, but I think it's quite maybe complicated for the purpose of our webinar, and it's more technical. Maybe we'll skip it for a moment. And because we are in the process of evolution of crypto assets and crypto assets valuation, this is now a very interesting, even though simple, but very important chart to understand. Like in the very first stage, when any crypto network is created and it's not yet known how many people will really use it, and will they use it at all? Like there is only mood and expectation. Yeah, it's always on this stage you can see the difference. Some networks are highly expected and speculated on, like it was the same story with Ethereum even before main network launch, or like recently with EOS or Tezos. There is a expectation and high buzz in the crypto community. But even though we don't see like real usage yet, still expectations is high, and you can say, okay, something's going on there. And this is like this, it's covered by red circle. Now, once we or project kicks off the mainnet or even testnet, you can start measuring already real usage. And real usage can be like different metrics, daily addresses or newly created wallets, or even you can analyze, and we do it to in our platform, how many developers activity flows into a specific platform. So this green circle start interacting with red one. The crowd mood and growth expectations still here, but it's already based a little bit on real metrics which you can get from like on-chain data. And the more they interact with each other, it means the more times passes on from the moment when the network has been launched, the more kind of educated and not so esoteric calls you can make. And this is why we mostly see very, quite scientific approaches when people analyze Bitcoin or Ethereum. There are quite some metrics out there already. And power data science here really kicks in. Now, the next chart and a few charts thereafter, I want to show the following specific aspect. As we say in the beginning, there are many different ways how you can look into every specific asset on the crypto in general. And you can find out in the different places many frameworks. What we are mostly focusing on, what is speciality on a sentiment platform and our know-how, is like we always observe whatever happens from the point of behavior. Because we believe network of humans who are communicating, it's driven strongly by their behavior. And you can, by analyzing it, you understand a lot. So this data, which on this and following chart, it will be representative of very maybe specific and unusual way, but this is what we wanted to show and share with you to activate your maybe new way of thinking, or like critical way of traditional way of thinking. On this chart, you see the green line. It's a price of an asset. It's a GNT Golem network, one of the famous projects on the Ethereum platform. And the price is like everyone knows the price. Now, what not so many people knows in the background was happening, and you see this yellow chart and yellow spiky lines. This is the amount of daily active addresses. Means how on daily basis many unique addresses were interacting with each other. It gives you very direct metrics of how active the community is on a blockchain. This is Onchain Data, we'll like take from Ethereum blockchain. And because interacting on a blockchain like takes you a little bit effort, and it's not completely for free, so it can be assumed that this metric shows you real like interest from the network participants. And you will notice that, not surprisingly, there are some kind of spikes or very strong signals on a chart which do correspond with specific part of price discovery, because they would, the spikes, they do represent the behavior of the big community or the crowd when they get really excited about something. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the amount of activity like grows like 3-5 times more than usual. Yeah, and then generally it does represent does represent the price itself too. When the network activity goes down, it goes down like together with the price. Actually, the price is deprecated, so less people wants to speculate. While the background, it's like a second phase kicks in. It's like it's the first high price on the way up, and then we need some time for cool down. We can call it cool down period when the you cannot keep emotional activity all the time very high. So it's just one part of the data, how we look into it. And it's I think it's another project we take as an example, and you will see here the same repeating pattern with interesting, for instance, addition under number 2. It's again observation of human behavior. The price was from 6th of January. You see on the bottom line is dates. 6th of January. It was around this date. It was like top of price price spike or price discovery. So the price was like going down, and some period of time, those who were holding too long, they may be panicking or giving out. There is a quite a classic human behavior when you cannot bear the risk or this depression anymore. So you decide either go out or maybe change to another asset or go out to the cash, and we call it a kind of capitulation. So there will be like a short spike, and sometimes it's exactly at the bottom or sometimes close to the bottom. And as you can see, after number 2 spike, so there was still some time of going out, but then it's kind of price turned out, and market decided to price another direction, and exactly at the top there was again opposite direction. Maybe participants were super excited again. So all from the point of behavior analysis of how typically human reacts to the price changes. Now this is quite simple but powerful metric tool we do use for. We show it on our platform, and I would encourage anyone also to do something in this direction. What we measure here is like a general mood of the whole crypto crowd. And in this case, it's a kind of a mathematical model how we collect and calculate usage of emojis, positive and negative, in all trading channels. And they show like wide swing, like a typical swing of traders. Sometimes they're super positive because maybe news coming out, and sometimes they're negative. But what you can observe over a longer time, it does have also like a general trends. And in this case, with the green line, and we did share it actually quite some time ago. In green line, it was visible that after hitting the bottoms of mood of the traders, it kept growing up generally slowly over the last at least 1.5 months before the recent spike in Bitcoin. So it could already raise your awareness that it seems like we build up the real bottom in the crowd mood, and maybe it will start climbing up again. Similar things, but from more detailed perspective, you can see from specific projects too. For instance, like in this example, we took Tron. It's a quite hype and discussed project in the crypto space. We've been collecting all the messages from Telegram channels, and we split them between channels which belongs to Tron community and those who are like not part of the Tron communities. And it also shows interesting picture, or like for further analysis, gives you enough food how the spikes or like reaching the peak top valuation, how they have, what kind of effect they have on a crowd or community of people who are engaged with this project. Yeah, the white line here is the price, and the green and blue line is green and blue line is amount of messages which been passing through communication channels. I see also the question on our Mentimeter. Maybe I will answer because it is reflected to what I'm talking right now. Where is the data coming from? Are you using third parties API, or do you collect the data by yourself? We do collect all the data by ourselves from Onchain. We have our full nodes, and we like connecting one after another to have direct access. And the same from social data. We write our own APIs or connectors to get the data directly. And actually, when we are talking about APIs, I can mention already now, we do provide APIs already to get access to this data. Yeah, similar things now, social volume, but for EOS, it's another very highly expected project which launched their main network somewhere in the beginning of June. So the same white is the price, and blue and green you see the amount or intensivity of communication. Now, I don't go on purpose here. It's actually better if I can draw some additional lines and show maybe some pattern to explain how it usually feels like using the data coming close to the top, or how period of lack of interest on building the bottom might be taken from this data. It's actually very interesting task for data scientists or people who really want to play with it. But by observation of it, you see that there is something behind it. Yeah, like white price is visible to everyone. Now, when you look in the data, which typically not shown to everyone, you can see that, yeah, it will be interesting maybe to build some models around on to start correlate data between each other to have this deeper understanding of how the network grows is followed by specific kinds of data. This is another one. I think our CTO was doing some experiments when recent spikes in Bitcoin price starting to happen. We start to track only talks about Bitcoin, everything related to Bitcoin. Yeah, also find out, still experimental, but thinking how this can be used for measuring the top sentiment in Bitcoin, which should come soon, because we have been growing for some time, but we have not reached it yet. This may be the most complicated metric I just mentioned to show that even very complex analysis can be made now when we have some good amount of historical topics. This is history of our own Sun token. You see this rose or pink line, which goes from around like 20 cent, well, goes to the top. Let's see, actually the mass scale is not so correct. So there is a rose line goes from left more or less a little bit down, this very strong up, and then goes sideways and goes slowly down. So this is the price of some tokens. The rest of the lines, they seem to be overwhelming, but they show a very interesting aspect: how many of issued tokens are transacted daily. Like how many in a circulation on daily basis, how many of them stay quiet but are circulated once per week, and then one per month, one per 3 months, because it does show you maybe building or growing interest from mid to long-term investors or declining interest of it, and do we have accumulation or distribution phases, this kind of analysis, and I'm pretty sure you can do much more with it. We are just recently finished calculating this kind of metrics for every single token on Ethereum blockchain, and it's as I said, it's still in initial phases of analyzing and valuing crypto assets or crypto projects. Just to show you that the data itself looks here interesting, but quite complicated. And it's worth spending time trying to understand how it can be incorporated into your own maybe model. Yeah, this is the same token circulation for another project, 0x, also very popular. And maybe last metrics, I think this is the last one which we will share during webinar. It's a so-called social dominance. It's amount of, you can see like 100%. It's the whole spectrum of media conversations on all crypto channels. Those who we like track and like attention more and more. Now, how much percentage of it is going towards Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, use different cryptocurrencies. So you to see how much attention of participants of crypto markets flow into specific project. We do believe that changing in this attention has relevance to the price. Sometimes it's a leading, sometimes or most of the time it's a kind of lagging indicator. When price picks up, you will do have definitely much more attention. But it has its own kind of law. It's kind of this flow of attention, and it all shows also the same part of price discovery, how fast, how strong specific network is growing correlated to another network. Yeah, it's a small pitch because of we are working very intensively on so many on so much different data. We're still looking for interested data engineers or crypto analysts or even AI or machine learning nerds. But I will not spend too much time on it. Maybe we'll better spend time on answering the questions. And here will be some links to where you can learn on the first one, like what kind of call we did in 2017, and also access API access to some of key metrics which are now available as directly on our webpage, or you can even use some Python library around it, or you can see some of them directly on our webpage. Just to mention, we have a kind of beta platform where you can get access to much more experimental data and visualized, but it's quite rough and you can be overwhelmed, but there will be a lot of data there. Yeah, I think that's it for general representation. Maybe only one thing more I wanted to show. Let me see if I can switch to it, because I was like mostly sharing what can be collected and presented with power of machines. Now there is one thing where our community participates in it, generating some kind of, we call it insights. Now I think I need to press here. No, share. Oh yeah, here. Yeah. Let me. Is it visible? Mm-hmm. So this is part of community side, when those of part of our community who more or less comfortable with working with our data or applying kind of framework which we use, this crowd sentiment or behavior analysis, or sometimes even technical analysis, share on our platform. Now you can see, for instance, July 17, it's like 1 week ago, before this big spike in Bitcoin started, what some of our team members, they were doing, actually they were sharing on our Discord channel for quite some time, because we did notice there are repeating patterns. And as we know, like humans, they always behave more or less in repeating patterns. We say, oh, it may be interesting, like Bitcoin, which represent at least 50, sometimes more or less percent of cryptocurrency, does behave in like repeating patterns when you look into it on the chart. And then he shared, yeah, based on what we've seen before, we might be just before entering like a big spike. And this, I think, exactly what happened. It's one thing Or say another source of information you can find on the platform where you see what experts are saying. And I think actually this insight is from me myself. I was looking into the behavior of Bitcoin, how it was from 2010 till end of 2013, big price increase, and then what happened in the last 2 years. And then I was thinking, okay, what might happen starting from now on? That's where it was also interesting to see, yeah, we might be indeed entering quite big price movement right now. Or sometimes you see more specific, not only for Bitcoin, but some, I don't know, 0x, yeah, because we like this project a lot. Also, a lot of even based on our Onchain Data, yeah, where some specific human behavior was noted, how they usually react to price increases or discovery, and then there was some sharing. Yeah, it might mean that in this case, I think that the price might or should grow a bit more before we see follow up on on-chain activity. This, yeah, I think by now mostly I'm finished. Introduce 2 parts, like what machines are doing and what people can do with it. And now maybe we'll turn to the questions and answer section. Where do we see it? Okay, so there was only one question regarding APIs. And yeah, as we answered to it, that we collect all the data by ourselves. Maybe if you have some other questions, you can type it into Mentimeter.
Just to jump in very quickly, there are some more questions on Mentimeter.
Is that not visible?
I'm just gonna read them out, and maybe you can give some answers to this. So another person asked, "Are you taking fundamental valuation models like the MV equals PV or Volt model into account as well?"
Well, then MV equals PQ. Someone should describe what exactly it means by it. Price volatility compared, yeah. Should I answer about MV or price volatility? Price volatility is here with one like. Maybe the person who asked about MV equals PQ can describe what he means by it. Maybe it's some kind of classical financial relation which I'm not so familiar with. And I will talk about price volatility and compare with sentiment indicators. Yeah. We don't measure it directly by ourselves on a platform. Rather, we can give or like provide API where I would be happy someone doing it. The correlation, in my opinion, surely exists. Just the goal of our platform is to provide as much as possible relevant data and to let others to start building on top of it. And this will be a very interesting indicator. Price volatility with sentiment. Yeah. That will be interesting to see. Did we get how are you measuring the mood of the crowd? Okay, how are we measuring the mood of the crowd? In order to measure the mood of the crowd, you need actually many different fundamental things to be done. Or let's say another word. There are 2 approaches. One, if you into this market for at least 1 year, you can measure by yourself just by following up on the major media events. Yeah, this is how I personally doing it. And the second, or like people in our community who were like talking from time to time and like sharing our thoughts, and we know how to measure, we just share the latest events. Now, in order to make it like machine-based, yes, this is more, much more complicated stuff. You need to build a lot of framework around. We've done maybe like 30 or 40% of what is needed, like collecting all the necessary data, build specific for cryptocurrency analysis vocabulary, which is needed for machine, because we do use specific words. And now we start building next layer, like identifying the topics which are community talking around. And the very important next step, which is not yet made, is to mark the data to learn machine what in crypto considered to be positive, negative. Now, after this is done, I believe to some degree it can be done by machine too. But right now it's like your human assessment, if we are talking about more long term, is considered to be mood of the crowd, super excited, panic, or depressed, or all these typical characteristics. Well, it's a pity we cannot talk directly to each other, because I do expect there are some next questions coming. But yeah, I don't know. On this topic, specific on this topic, I will be coming tomorrow, day after tomorrow, to Darmstadt, because the community of machine learning, artificial intelligence from TU Darmstadt invited to talk and discuss on this topic. So if you're around this area, if you're in Rhine-Main area, come and maybe we can talk more directly and more intensively with each other how to really measure with machines crowd sentiment. Yeah. Well, sorry if I couldn't cover it completely, but I tried. Are you taking fundamental valuations models, MV equal PQ, or Volt model into account as well? Now, I still need to understand what is this Volt model, MV equals PV. Is there any explanation somewhere here on the chat? Well, well, I have an assumption. What it? Yeah. Okay. Size of asset base, velocity of asset, price of the digital resource being provisioned, and quick quantity of digital resource being managed. Okay. Okay. Well, this model will only apply to those cryptocurrencies who are supposed to become like a currency, like Bitcoin, yeah, maybe Litecoin, or like privacy coins, Dash, Monero. There you can apply these metrics. For others, you will likely need to do much more, I wouldn't say complicated, but different models. One thing you want to measure is mostly the network growth and network dominance over the other networks. Yeah, and then combined with this kind of mood of the network participants. Now, I believe these are fundamental metrics for cryptocurrency valuations, which is mentioned here: size of the asset base, velocity of the assets. It does apply to the traditional financial, or let's say we've learned that it makes sense to use this kind of valuations on traditional assets. Unfortunately, they will likely fail with crypto assets, because there's a factor of speculation. The future dominance of a huge market is too strong, and you need to pay much more attention to this crowd sentiment or expectation of the crowd, be it positive or negative, into your valuation metric. So I believe this valuation method will likely not apply yet. Maybe after a few years, when it's more stabilized, we can use it. But right now, it will give a lot of false positives. What is your fee structure to have access to all of your data as analysis? Well, it depends. It depends. There are very classic fee structure where you stake. Well, we don't really like sell. We're more interested in a collaboration. So in a collaboration can be either if you like do it mostly for yourself, so you stake 1,000 Sun tokens, and right now you like get access to whatever we have, yeah, to everything we have. Now, if you are really like researching and want to talk, work with us tightly and share experiences and learnings, it might happen that we will give an exemption and will not ask you to pay anything, because we're also interested to learn from you. So these two models. Either you stake 1,000 Sun tokens, okay, you get access to historical data we have and most of our experimental stuff, or you come talk to us and we'll find a way. Do you have a blog or Twitter where you share your ideas and blogs? Yes, definitely. Twitter we don't use so much. From time to time we share there some market calls where we think something really important happens, so you need to be aware of it. And the Twitter handle, I don't know, maybe organizer of webinar will share it later on. It's Sentiment Feed. And our blog, for now it was our Medium blog where we published a few things, but now we will move it to our own web page. To our main page, some education area, and most of the stuff, like really freshly out of our experimentation, you will always find on our Discord channel. This is where we really like share it immediately when we found something, and mostly it happens like a few times a week. Please elaborate a bit on collaboration possibilities. As we said, we not only we value the network from that growth, but we also strongly believe this is the main purpose of the cryptocurrency, to be able to connect people of similar interest and to create a value together. So here comes the collaboration. Yeah, we have kind of a lot of preliminary work done, but still much more to be done. On our web page, if you go to sentiment.net/contributors, you will see already some introduction what we're looking for, and there is a form. You simply can write down your name and your main idea, what you want to work on, and from that moment we'll pick it up and we will discuss what we can do together. Yeah, this is a very good question. Do you have a problem with bots and fake accounts and measuring cases? Definitely. Yeah. This is actually boring but very important part of data cleaning. For now, we did not see much of fake and on-chain activity, with one exception. Last year, there was a kind of very interesting found on mix activity on Ethereum network, but this is only one like big event. Other than this, the data is still quite clean, because no one knows the value of it yet, so it's not manipulated. But regarding social data, yeah, that's quite a problem when you try to measure social mode. Well, right now it's not a big problem, but we notice already some special appearances of so-called social engineering. To be well, interesting to observe how much will it take in the next coming months. I would expect now in the human behavior it will become more, but yeah, the data cleaning and marking and classifying the data is complicated stuff. Can we come back? There was if we collect any data. Yeah, this is because it's important. If I use your platform, what data about me and my activity will you collect? Now, let me see if we collect anything. I think the data which is collected is mostly from Google Analytics, which is, well, anonymized anyway, and it's just to follow up on if this button is clicked, like let's say on an insight, you open insight, are you like, oh, anyone is going to see the details, some stuff like this. I think that's all. Yeah. Well, if it's really important, yeah, you can ask in a like short message, and I will ask developer to share what's really shared. Well, from my attitude, well, we don't need any private data, but maybe machines are doing it anyway. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Now I see the more detailed. Can we come back a little bit? The question. No. I mean, yeah, here. The question of Oh, now again disappeared. Yeah, the question of exchange is okay. It's going up and down. The equation of exchanges MV equal PQ, and when applied to crypto, my interpretation is M, size of the asset base, V, velocity of the exit, P, price of the digital resource being provisioned. Yeah, next. M, size of the asset base, velocity of the asset, price of the digital resource being provisioned, quantity of the digital resource being provisioned based on the fundamental currency valuation. Yeah. Yes, this is the problem, I think. When we look into the Q, quantity of the digital resource being provisioned based on fundamental currency valuation. How can we decide fundamental currency valuation when the perception, even Bitcoin, the most established one, it went through so many tricks during the history. First, it was mean of payment. Then they tried but failed to do any kind of smart contract, more complicated money. Then it became de facto now the most usage digital storage of your wealth. And then suddenly on top of it, we have Lightning Network, which is really working. Now it's again potentially mean of payment. So because of this, you have to adjust your valuations quite frequently. It's one thing if you use it just to store decentralized and no one can steal from you, you're part of digital wealth. And another thing if you try to use it for payment, whereas I know the long story between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and some other networks. And this alone changes over time, and especially taking into account attitude of the also participant of the crypto networks, makes this Q parameter, quantity of the digital resource being provisioned based on fundamental currency valuation, well, I believe super complicated to calculate, if possible at all. Yeah, Chris is known person in crypto community. Yeah, they have their own approach, but I have not seen yet any pragmatic evaluation from their side. Like, it's I think it's a good attempt or good approach to value networks how it will be in after some time, but at the current moment there is no clear call. You never know, undervalued, overvalued, can grow further or no. Based on your data analysis, have you been able to establish an reliability score for different exchanges? Okay, that's a good question. Short answer, no. We've never taken it as a goal for us to give a score for different exchanges. A bit longer answer, you can see it from the data indeed where the amount of fake volume is maybe the biggest. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Now, when I'm thinking what data we have and how can we measure different aspects related to reliability score. I don't see a simple approach to do it. No, I don't see a simple approach. Only let's say how much exchange is trying to fake their volume. Yes, it's possible to measure, but this is only metric. If it's related to reliability or not, it's another question. No questions from the audience. Okay. Good. Well, then I would like to say thanks to Frankfurt School of Finance and Blockchain, and for Christian personally for organizing and setting it up. For those who would like to collaborate or to work together, yeah, please visit our contributors page on Sentiment.net. And yeah, as we are like based in Frankfurt, you can come talk to us in Frankfurt, and we are like running from time to time events both in Frankfurt, Darmstadt, or like recently even in Sofia, where we're like traveling around. And thanks a lot for see you soon. Thanks for spending so much time with us together. Bye.